Okay, well, I'm going to get started and hopefully people can join as they have the chance. Again, I'm Pat Sikora. I'm part of the research committee for SEI and have the joy of working with lots of great people in the research world and with SEI. And what we're going to be working with today is some of the work group, the mentoring work group. There are several work groups with the committee, and you are welcome to join the committee. Please send a note to Dr. Michael Shangaris. His email and information will be in the chat if you're interested in being part of the committee or a work group. It's a great group of people to get to know, so I'd encourage that. And I'm just going to read real quickly. The mission of the committee is to develop a robust SC research program that supports the best research practices, guides research through mentorship, and fosters collaboration. Mentorship is central to that mission, and that's why mentoring has been a focus for this last several months and the year, basically, for a lot of the work of the committee. And this session is sort of a culmination of some of the work that we've done in thinking, more around the thinking that we've done about what is mentoring within this context. Many of us have had experiences going through our own academic careers of the basically the academic hazing that is sometimes called mentoring, but it can be stressful and it can be traumatic, frankly. And so we wanted to create an environment that is supportive and SC informed for mentoring. And so what we're going to do is have several of the people from the work group. We're going to share with you some of the thinking that we've enjoyed and done over the last several months. So you know where our thinking has gone from and evolved to. And then we're going to break out into smaller groups and have each of you have a chance to chat with each other, meet with someone from the committee or the work group, talk a little bit about your experiences, your needs, your perspectives, and then we'll come back together at the end and just debrief a little bit and talk about next steps. So I want to welcome everybody, and I'm so delighted to have everybody here. And I'm going to turn it over to Frank Olsen, who is our wonderful colleague from Denmark. And he is going to share some of the work that he brought to the work group and thinking, so that we can talk about what is knowing really. And you know, I think many of us just look at it as the sage on the stage, someone telling us information, someone spouting wisdom and knowledge. And there's really so many more dimensions of it. And we thought this was a really pivotal way to start thinking about what this might look like for SC. So Frank, if you'll unmute yourself, and we're going to let you take it over for a while.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. And thanks for that introduction, actually. So research, it's basically about knowing what we are doing, actually, and knowing, and we can verify that what we are doing actually also works, the way we are thinking it works. And I came across a Danish philosopher, professor in philosophy, who actually wrote his thesis around this. How are we obtaining the knowledge we have actually? And he divided it into these 4 dimensions. And to start from the top, the voice of the subject, because it says, yeah, okay, we have a natural science-based way of knowing exactly what we know, because we test it, and we test it in a very precise manner, so we can actually be sure that under these circumstances, we will always have this outcome, giving a certain intervention. So if you go from that dimension, you run into theoretical problems. It's actually, does it hold true, the concepts we have? Does that cover in the reality what we are thinking they're covering? So this is pretty much about that dimension. But we know what we know because we have tested it in a lab. So we know this to hold true. Actually, like the force of gravity, Newton, he tested that again and again, and he drew a law from that always holds true, unless you are in outer space, of course, then it doesn't hold true any longer. But as long as you are subject to the gravity, it holds true. And he also says there, okay, great thing, but we can't everybody test the word into a lab to know what we know actually, because many of us are doing this in practice. And to tell the truth about the somatic experiencing, it is actually formed in a clinical setting. So many of our findings and many of our concepts are developed in close relationship to actually to have a kind of craftsmanship into this. This is also because this is why we learn the somatic experiencing method by doing it, because you have to have it in your hands and you have to know what these concepts is all about. You have to feel from inside and you have to see it from the outside to be sure what you're doing. But it's true, we don't always know what we know, but we do know that it actually works. So in order to actually know what we know, and that's true, then we will have to probably test it in a lab and find solutions for that and find out if our concepts also holds truth in any circumstances. Now we run into problems actually, because this knowing the voice of the subject is often tested by handling the things we observe like they were objects. But actually humans are not objects. I mean, the law of gravity, it holds true for objects, but if you let a cat fall out of the window, you can make sure that it will do anything to break the force. So and the law of the gravity is all of a sudden not so predictable anymore. So in a way, you'll have to just wait and see, and that's not so suited for the natural science-based approach, because this is very unreliable that you have to wait and see what's happening. So, but this is actually what we do all the time in somatic experiencing. We know some basic facts about the autonomous nervous system and how it works. And we can be sure that it will always come up and it will always come down, and it will always kind of try to regulate itself. And in those particularly ways they are doing it, that's individual. You could say it's universal in its form, but it's pretty individual in its content. So and this is what we practice in somatic experiencing. We keep open and curious and see and let the organism do the next, show us the next wise step, what the organism is ready to do now. And we have to also allow ourselves to be both curious, but also be surprised, because we come with a lot of concepts. This is our brain work. I mean, our brain works wonderfully in that respect. So we always have some preconceptions about what is going to happen. And the art is actually not to impose that on the other person, because we are not dealing with objects, we are dealing with individuals. We are dealing with subjects. You could also, if you think about Martin Buber, the philosopher, the Jewish philosopher, he always talk about this relationship in between me and it. And talks about, well, but if you're going into an object-subject relation, then you'd become an I and you. And this is some quite different sphere to enter. And in Finn Thorbjørn Hansen's dimensional descriptions here, he calls this approach that we are also cultivating as somatic experiencing for the voice of the case, the being, the wondering. We know there's something we don't know, because we know there's a threat response, we know there's an autonomic nervous system who tries to regulate itself, but in what particularly way does that show up in our clients? We don't know. So we have to be attentive to that and to let go of our preconceptions of what's going to happen. You could call that the wicked problems, because it's wicked to us, because in a way we have to let go of our preconceptions and start to follow the client in the process of them self-healing, actually, the trauma. So the wickedness come into that you have to sit on your hands actually and let go of your preconceptions and be very attentive and be very present in the here and now, just to notice what is really there and not what you want to be there. And actually, Finn Thorbjørn Hansen find this very useful, because most of our brain work has actually been done in a sphere of doing, but we completely forget that while we are doing, we are still present in the world and we are being at the same time. So while we are doing all our plans, like John Lennon says, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. And the being sphere, this is where it actually happens. And this is also where somatic experiencing happens. And probably also what we are talking about today, the mentoring is going to happen. It's happening in the here and now and in the presence of each other. So yeah, and like the cat, let's wait and see what turns up, what comes out of that. You'll never know. And the delicate problems, that's to deal with something completely different, because the eye can actually see everything else, but it cannot see itself see. So what we are faced with also in our encapsulation here is actually we are missing the point that we are also being watched from outside, and other people might know something about us that we wasn't aware of ourselves, because the eye can see everything else, but it cannot see itself. So this is also why I love this this work, and also this mentoring committee work, because we are bringing really many cultures together actually. So we really have that chance to get out of our Western hemisphere and start to opening up for diversity, because from diversity comes the true wisdom. So, and then Finn Torbjørn Hansen is calling the personal voice, the existential voice. We do not know what we don't know. And I hope for us to today actually to enter this sphere of being together and actually opening up for both the diversity from what we might not have seen in our work group and being reached by your input. So we can get so much wiser, because without diversity, no wisdom. So I hope this becomes quite clear to everybody, because if you're looking at how to perform research, well, the golden standard is actually the randomized control trials. So that goes with natural science-based way of getting knowledge. But there are many more ways of obtaining knowledge than just that. But even though we have to probably test some of our concepts through that method and see if it really holds true, and cover what we think they are covering, so much of our work is actually doing in the craftsmanship and in the being sphere of the world. So we have to find ways of testing that loyal and being loyal to what is really the active ingredient in somatic experiencing therapy. And thanks God, psychotherapists, they have been working with this for years, actually. I mean, cognitive behavioral therapy, that's easy to set up in a lab, but I mean, psychotherapy, because that's dealing with the being together in the room and following the process and having an ongoing process that evolves in time and space. And how are you going to cap that? So thanks God, they found out that maybe the benefits and the effectiveness of psychotherapy, 8% accounts, the method accounts for 8%, 88%, I mean, of the outcome actually, because it all lies in the interrelational factors, or what you can call the non-specific factors. And you know that fact actually, because when you are doing RCT studies, you always use a control group, because there's always a human factor. Because subjects then tend to have meaning about themselves and meaning about what's going on and where they are going. And that influences actually our beautiful natural science-based design so much. So we have to come up with control groups just to make up for that. But it could also be interesting to find a way of research that actually builds on the human factor instead of ruling it out. So I hope that this appetizer just could go into our discussion later on in the breakout rooms, because this is really the interesting about doing research in somatic experiencing, how you're doing this in a loyal way, and how can you make sure that you don't kill the bird just to see why it flies, because you will never get the knowledge about the flying by killing the bird. You will get some feathers and bones and flesh, but still you miss the flying, because that's all in the process. So how are you going to grasp the process in itself while the bird is flying? together with you. So let's have that process together for this seminar today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Frank. I love this slide. It's so much in this. I mean, I could look at this and noodle on this for a long time. So great material. Thank you so much. And also thank you, Frank is dealing with a little bit of the COVID virus and was worried about fuzzy thinking, but your fuzzy thinking is way beyond most of our thinking. So well done. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Pat.
Dr. Jifra is going to share with us some of her thinking and when we met about this over the summer, it was just such fun to look at people's perspectives and bring in all these different points of view. And Mary's perspective, she comes from a perspective as a teacher, as an educator, as a faculty member at a large university. She has a great way of distilling information down to ways that are very pragmatic. She's a practitioner. So her material provides yet another look at this idea of what does it mean. And I'm trying to forward my screen here. Hold on. There we go. Sorry. To experience research in SC. What is it, the experiencing of research in SC? So Mary, I'm going to turn it over to you and have you walk through this. We thought this was a really powerful, simple but powerful acronym for what research could be in SC. So your turn, Mary.
Okay.
Oh, before I forget, I'm so sorry. Rebecca is going to be fuming at me. I'm sure you can enable closed captioning on your screen if that's helpful to you. I should have said that at the beginning and I apologize, forgot to do that. So sorry to interrupt, Mary. Go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to say I'm really pleased to be here because I love research, but I also know there's a lot of trauma involved in the whole process. The whole process of education has a lot of trauma for all of us from the earliest days on. So SE research is very different from academic research, where it's, when we were in academia, and I taught in the master's and doctoral program at NYU, and we used to say that it was like a rite of passage. A doctorate was like a rite of passage. You had to get scars and before you were in the club. And I think that there was some people who had that idea. And we're doing research every day. Every SE session that you do is a research session. You're there, you know certain things about the client, but you don't know a lot. And you're studying and you have a theory that you're applying, that you're using, but you're testing and you have a hypothesis that you test. You would come into the room, everything that you do is really research. And I think you need to know that. And so I really wanted to bring research into the acronym of SC because I think SC research is very, very different from other researchers. And know that you are a researcher already, even though you don't label yourself that way. You're doing case research every day of your life. You could take one client, you could take 5, 10, and just see what's happening. What are the trends? Are there commonalities? What are the parallels? And just begin to look at them and study them. I mean, all of us as kids, how do we learn? We look, we're curious, we see that, oh, that happens all the time. Every time you do that, that happens. And then you come up with a kid doesn't call it a theory, but it's a bit of a theory. And so that's how you get to understand life. So we're doing the exact same thing. Academia has made it very super complex, but the basic, you can get experts to help you with the statistics and with the, that kind of thing. But the basic thinking process and addressing what's going on and studying, seeing patterns, seeing the familiarities so that you can begin to make some predictions is what it's about. So the most important thing is to be present. It's on my here, no matter, even if you're mentoring, even if you be present to yourself and be present to the other person. It's an interactive process. You're both growing and changing from interacting with one another. So even now, just allow yourself to scan the room and let your eyes rest on something, just right here to get us all in our bodies and out of our heads. Scan the room, let your eyes rest on something and just be present. And you might do that. And when you're in the session and you're working with people, you can explore different ideas, and their ideas might be different than yours, or you might be surprised or overwhelmed. Just stop, feet on the ground, back on the chair, scan the room, get back. And allow the different perspectives. You have one point of view, they have another point of view. Be curious, just allow space for it, just like an SE session. And then you'll see new ideas, new perceptions. Avoid overwhelm. If you start feeling overwhelmed because of something going on with the mentee, or the mentee starts, just scan the room, take a breath, feel your feet on the floor, back against the chair. It's kind of a way, it's like what you do in an airplane with somebody who's getting scared. You know, you don't have to have a formal session to practice SE. It's a way of life. And then resource. You know, let's take a break. Let's have a glass of water. Let's have a cup of coffee. Let's deal with this tomorrow. Or, you know, what do you think it'll be like when you're finished? Gee, that's a pretty dress. Whatever, you know, SE all the time. You're practicing when you're mentoring and being mentored. And as I say, curious and judgmental is just essential. That's the most important thing. Make it fun. Have fun learning. It's like, think of kids. They're so excited about something they don't know, or when they see and they look, and they're excited about it. We lose that. It's, oh, that's what this is. That's what this is. Oh, I know that. It's so sad to lose that excitement and enthusiasm and aliveness. So SE research is not that dreary, deadly stuff that you did back in the classroom. This mentoring process can help you to heal some of those wounds from elementary school, high school, college, and so on. And just study on a case, you know, just be curious with what's going on. Take notes, see patterns, talk to people, come and learn how to, or teach how to, you know, help other people to do the same. So I just think this is such an exciting experience. And I think it'll be a new one for all of you. It will be not like the research you've done in the past. It's so heady. You know, it's not grounded research, but this is grounded research. So we're really happy to have you aboard, and it'll be fun.
Thanks, Mary. I'm going to ask you to mute while we have Ben speak next, and the fun factor, I mean, that's a big part of it. And I think the collaboration and that's been part of the experience of this work group, is that's why we wanted to share some of this material with you, because we had a lot of fun learning from each other, thinking about this, bringing in these different points of view, different perspectives, as we talked about what could this look like, because ultimately we want SC informed mentoring to feel different than maybe what you felt in a mentoring relationship before. And after several discussions and things like that, we collapsed a lot of our thinking into several key principles. And I'm going to move over here, just get to Ben. I'm going to unmute Ben. Or Ben, you can unmute yourself, I guess, sorry. And I'm going to forward us to the next slide. But this was sort of the culmination of all our discussions. And we had a lot of thoughts all over the place, but we wanted to consolidate them into what are some of the core principles of SE that we've really come up against over and over and over and over again as we talk through this. And then what are some examples? What does that look like and feel like in a real relationship? What does that look like? And so this is where we landed. And Ben is a member of the work group, and just a critical member because he represents students. Ben is, I don't know how he does it, but he is both an SC student and a master's student, has a family, is actively involved in his community, and I don't know when he sleeps, but he is part of our wonderful group of cast of characters, and we are so grateful. Oops, I'm sorry. And I'm going to have him share with you what we kind of ended up with for our principles. So Ben, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, coming to this research, I like the concept of coming to a research mentorship. For me, I didn't know what I was walking into. And so just showing up and being present is so much of it, right? You show up. I didn't know what to expect. I still don't know what to expect. I came today not knowing what to expect. And being aware, showing up, and being present is 90% of what I can even think to do. I'm kind of a little tongue-tied because I'm nervous, you know, and that's what I'm aware of. That's what's present for me right now. And so I show up and I have that with me, and it's, you know, it's, I don't know if it's helping or if it's not. I don't really know what I'm doing. But it's, to be present in it is kind of key, because if you don't have that, if you show up, what are you doing? You know, to bring the SE principles into the relationship, you have to show up, and sometimes it's messy, and sometimes you show up and you don't know what you're doing. And how will you find what you're looking for if you're not willing to see when that's happening? And that's, you know, that's where I'm coming at it from. That's what I'm bringing with me, and so that's how I'm showing up. The one of the things that came up as we were discussing these principles, you know, trying this idea of how do we bring SE principles into the active research and into the mentoring in the relationship and the research. I'm sorry, talking about being present, this is a lot for me, and I'm getting really mixed up. I hoped I would be more prepared than this, and I'm not. Sorry, everybody, I'm embarrassing myself. Yeah, I might need help out of this. I'm sorry. I'm getting really warm and really nervous.
Just scare the room.
Yeah, let's tag team a little bit. How about that? Because again, this is a team effort, and
Yeah.
you know, I think this being aware and being present, embodied, and being honest about how you're feeling and where you're at. As a mentee in particular, I can imagine walking into a relationship feeling sort of like I'm going to be judged, I'm going to be, you know, scolded because I don't know what I'm doing. And even as a mentor, though, you know, I've walked into mentoring relationships and felt that imposter syndrome. I really don't know what I'm talking about, and how in the world am I going to help this person do what they're doing? And being aware of that and present to that in each other is so, so important. And starting from that point of owning who we are in the moment is real important. And that's where we all are. None of us walk into these relationships all in. I mean, it's hard. And these days, I think it's even harder. So it's hard to not, you know, feel how you feel. And I think it's important to be there with that. And we are all there with you because we've all experienced it, I promise you.
And Ben, you know what? It's funny. What I left out is what you just pointed out we need to do. When you're sitting with somebody and you're mentoring them or being mentored, do a SIBOM. What's your sensation? What are you feeling? What images, you know, the feelings, and what does that all mean to you? And talk about it. That's research. We're researching each other and what's going on. So it's kind of, it's scary at the time, but it's exciting. It's like a session. It's when you move deeper, both of you. So thank you for helping me to say what I forgot to say.
Yeah, no problem. Well, and you know, a lot of times after these meetings that we would have, I would show up and everybody would say thank you to me, and I had no idea what it was that I had done in the meeting. I would walk away from it and not realize what I had done that had been so valuable to everybody. But I think that at the point when we're starting to think about doing research, especially for something like SE, we're coming to this and we know a lot of stuff already. And most of us know so much that we've forgotten what we know. And so sometimes just showing up and being able to remind somebody, oh yeah, that thing, that's really important. I forgot about that 30 years ago. Maybe sometimes that's the important part.
Absolutely.
And if I might say something, Ben, one of the wonderful things about research is that ideas happen just with our human experience. And what you are showing here to all of us is that we as practitioners, as psychologists, as doctors, we also experience overwhelming symptoms and sensations, and somatic experiencing can help us all, practitioners and clients alike. So that is such a wonderful research idea that you just shared with us. How does somatic experiencing help us, practitioners? Yeah. So the wisdom of the body. Thank you for sharing it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, I think it also, and I'm going to turn it back to you in a second, but this reciprocity, mutuality, co-learning, we're all doing that all the time. And if this isn't an example of that, I don't know what is. And in the research relationship, mentoring relationship, this again, it's not sage on a stage. It's a two-way mutual learning, and that's the joy of it. That's the fun, is that as someone who may have done this for 30 plus years, I still learn every time I interact with a student or anybody, and being open to that learning, being a humble learner, a humble, participant in the relationship is so important. So, and the diversity piece, do you want to talk about that, Ben?
Yeah, just the idea, we can't just show up with one point of view and one perspective and think that we understand what's going on. That's ridiculous. And it's a great way to make really bad mistakes in the world that impact the world really badly. So, we show up and we listen to each other and we see what's happening. And sometimes that is ridiculous, like what I'm doing here, where I show up and I am trying to talk for 15 minutes and I can't even get through it. But I hear what everybody else is saying to me, and it's so heartwarming just to know that there are so many people here that are interested in this and trying to make this be a good thing in the world. So the more perspectives that we have to make that idea work and see how that idea works, it's a beautiful thing. And then to move on through the rest of it, the idea that it does take time, and some of that time, I think I demonstrated it, I don't know, is overwhelming. Some of the time that it takes to research something is overwhelming, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I showed up and I'm still here and I keep showing up, and it keeps taking time, and eventually I think something useful is coming out of this.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, I think so many of these experiences, or the principles were, this learner's mind, the curiosity that we all have about why these situations are stressful or create these responses in us. I mean, this right now would be a great research experience about how we are all feeling and where that's coming from, and how does that work and why does that work? And it's a very organic. One of the things I love about SC, and I'm a very traditionally trained researcher. I come from, probably the opposite extreme of social psychology, cognitive psychology, very experimental design, sort of structured type of perspective. And I love the organic dynamic nature of SC and how that also informs the research. It's very emergent, it's very inductive. And I think when Mary talks about the case research, the idea that by just being there, something emerges that is unexpected or interesting. And it's like, what is that? In traditional research, often we come in with a hypothesis, we're going to test the hypothesis, we're going to deduce what happened, and we're ignoring everything else that's going on. And so the idea that we're present, we're in the organic, dynamic nature of the relationship, we're open, we're curious, and we allow time for this to emerge. These were the principles that we thought were incredibly important from SC that could inform every mentoring experience. Ben, did you want to fill in on anything else? I didn't want to.
No, thank you so much for helping me out there.
No, of course, we're partners in this. We are partners in all of this. That's the fun. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. Thank you, Ben, so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can move on to the next slide. There we go. And I'm just going to talk, because I come from this traditional research background. Again, for me, this has been such a great learning experience, because I came up through this hazing form of academic mentoring, where how many scars do you have? And it's a badge of honor to be stressed and upset and unhappy. And to listen to my colleagues, to the work group folks and the committee members talk about SC and research and mentoring has been literally a breath of fresh air. And what I took from this are some key points that really contrast with what I think of as traditional mentoring. And what I heard a lot was, this is a we proposition. This is about us. This is a collective process. versus you versus me. I'm not sitting at a desk talking at you, I'm working with you. And that came through very strongly when we talked about this in the work group. The idea that we're all wanderers. We all know a lot. We all know a lot. And I think that's true of all of us. But I've lost sometimes the wondering. I wonder what that means. I wonder what happens if. And to be open to someone providing me a new way of doing things, a new way of looking at the world, a new way of looking at research, a new way of looking at the human body. All those things, I'm always learning. And I think sometimes in the traditional research arena, you have, like I said before, that sage on the stage, the guru who is going to tell you everything, and you're just there to take it in. And in SC mentoring, we want that collaborative wondering for everybody. And the directorship, a lot of mentors become directors. You will do this, you will do that. And again, I think in these relationships, we want that collaborative work together. And the question of what if is much more prevalent in an SC mentoring relationship than how to. Again, the idea that this is what you're going to do. You're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this, and then you do this, and there's a recipe for doing this research. What if we tried it this way? What if this isn't what we thought it was? Let's try this. That idea of being always open and curious is very much part of that mentoring relationship. And more so than anything, we're peers. Ben and I, Frank, Mary, we come to our work group meetings all so open, and it's been a joy because every meeting, it's like we're all learning and we're all in. And Ben says he doesn't contribute. That's no. Now Ben has got some brilliant ideas, and just we learn from him as much as we learn from each other. And none of us, even if we have decades of experience, has any more superiority in this world or in the research arena than the other. So this idea of being a peer is really important, I think, in SC mentoring. Again, I'm observing as someone that comes from that outside traditional sort of mentoring. And I think the bottom line and sort of our theme is that we're all coming, if we circle back to Frank's work, we're all coming from a place of knowing and not knowing. We have to acknowledge that, and humility of knowing and not knowing, that we're all entering these relationships. So really, we are all mentors and we are all mentees. And so when we talk about this as we go forward, and we'll send out surveys or we'll send out additional information and have an additional workshop, when we use the word mentor or we use the word mentee, it's almost like we need a different language. Or we just use mentee for everybody, because this is really how I think encapsulates the nature of the SC informed mentoring relationship and research, is that we're all learning, and that we're all open to learning more and sharing that learning with each other and the community. So that's the end of the formal presentation. And what we're going to do now is, this may take a while, we're going to try to break the group up into breakout rooms. And in those breakout rooms, one of the folks that's been part of the committee or has volunteered to be a facilitator will lead a discussion. We want to know more about you. We want to know more about what you're working on, what you think about some of what you saw today. Unfortunately, we can't keep some of this up on the screen. The technology just doesn't allow that. But are there things that particularly stood out to you? Are there things we're missing? What's your point of view on some of this? We'd love to know more from you and learn from you about mentoring and your needs and interests, and how we can move forward together with you. We see this as sort of the first step in the mentoring process. And so we're eager to hear from you and learn from you. So Dion is going to, I believe, divvy us up into groups, and we'll let you get settled a little bit, get to know each other, and we'll bring you back about 10:15 or so, my time, Mountain Time, so that we have a chance to kind of debrief, learn from each other, what did you hear, and then we'll talk about some next steps. So unless any of my colleagues have anything else to put in there before we do that, we're going to let Dion work his magic. Okay, I'm thinking most of us are back. I think so. Well, did you have fun? I know the groups were a little bit smaller than we might have anticipated, but sometimes that's a good thing. You get to know each other a little bit better. Yeah, so that's
It was, since my group is the most awesome, I would say, of course it is.
oh, Michael. Well, it's quality, not quantity, right?
I'm teasing, but I just really, it was such a great and rich discussion, and I do think the intimacy of the connection helped.
Yeah,
It was
I
great.
think so. We were thinking these are going to be groups of 10 or 12, and I'm glad they ended up being smaller. So
We had
I'm just-
fun. We had fun. It was really
Good.
fun. We had a great time.
well, I'm interested to hear the next 5, 6, 7 minutes. Let me know what happened. You know, anybody want to share about what you learned? Any big ahas?
It's funny because I had a one-man group actually. So the two of us had a lot of fun. So, and we just really, yes, and we just realized because Paul did some studying into group dynamics and SE and how to apply somatic experiencing into group dynamics. And we just realized the two of us, where every class in somatic experiencing is actually a group dynamic. So that could be interesting to look further into that. Yeah.
Uh-oh, there's trouble.
Yeah, you start to look at a place that has an intrinsic study group that you have a big end to. Yeah, you can do that.
Exactly.
I have always said that the students are such rich resources. I don't know why I'm off here.
That's okay.
The students such resources for doing research. I mean, we have a captive audience, pre and post classes, pre and post anything. We can do so much research with the student body. I just think, oh, it's so from the beginning to the end changes. It's just, to me, it's just a rich resource. So I agree with you.
And the faculty, I mean, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So I know that we're hearing mostly from, oh, go on, Yadira, sorry.
No, you can go first too. You want me to go? Okay, I'll say something. Yes, somatic experiencing is very captivating. I feel that everyone who tries it on themselves, like myself, or uses the method for our clients, everyone becomes so amazed, so happy that it works, and so curious that the majority of our group, at least they were excited about doing research. Some of them were already doing research. Some of them wanted to collaborate more. And what I heard that was really important is, okay, we need a standardization. We need to all use the same intake questionnaire, the same outcome measures. Let's organize our work, but we can do this because it should be used with children. It can be used with all different populations. So I was very happy to hear the feedback of our group members. Thank you.
Awesome.
And I'll just say for a moment, Paul just put in the chat that he's available to talk with people and hear from them. He's really looking to do outreach, and he's a new member of our committee, really helping with fundraising and business development, and just an amazing guy with great experience and a great heart. Glad he's a part of the team. Please take him up on his generosity, but don't overwhelm him. All right, somebody else wanted to share.
Yeah, Beth, I think you
Thanks,
want.
Michael.
Oops.
We talked, we had a great session, and at the end we just talked about what do we need next. And one of the ideas was maybe to have salons like this focused real specific on aspects of doing research. For example, pre and post instruments to use, for example, qualitative studies, for example, case studies, for example, funding sources and applications like that. If we could just, zero in on these details that are so important and help move things along. I think there's lots of us out here ready to go, but we don't have that experience, or we're not connected to, academic or other institutions that would give us that support while we're seeing clients or in my case, seeing clients and teaching groups and training professionals. So I do feel a little like Mary Gifford said that, every day I feel like there's information lost here because it's not getting out, and this is what we need. And I've been in a little bit in that with mindfulness, teaching mindfulness for 30 years in inner city settings in Spanish and English, and publishing a little here and there, but book chapters and descriptive studies, a little research, but not because I knew anything about it, but because I teamed up with graduate students who would come in and analyze stuff from my classes. And then they had their help back at the university to throw it all together, publish their dissertation. Then after that, the student and I would publish an article based on their dissertation. So I would like to take those decades of sort of outskirts of a little bit of experience and just channel it into getting SE, the word about SE out, but I need help. I'm ready to go and I'm ready to write.
Ben is all about finding people to help work
Yeah.
studies. So you two need to get together.
What do you think of that idea of having Salon? We're addressing this, and then next time we're addressing this, and here's who you can reach out to for more, and here's how you can network with other people in the salon. I was thinking when you said we need a new word for mentor or mentee, I was thinking co-regulation. What about co-mentor?
There you go. Well, you're jumping ahead, because I'm going to talk about next steps, and one of the things.
Okay, well, I just want to tell you what we talked about.
That's great. No, that's perfect. No,
people are already working on evidence base through SE. Really, they're trying to show the evidence base of SE. And it's exciting. They're trying to really do that through their work and so on, through HRVs, and through the ventral vagal on the nervous, working through the nervous system. I'm sorry, my thing is.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And Beth, you're right. We are moving in those exact directions. I think sometimes when an idea is ripe, it comes up in the group in multiple places. But I love how clearly you describe that idea. And I think it hones me particularly. And I'll make sure I carry that with me in the committee work as we go forward. And Pat, I'm going to pass back to you because I know you want to move us somewhere.
No, that's okay. No, anybody else? Some of the folks that weren't facilitators or were like Beth, were participating in the discussions, anything from the presentation that you thought was like, not sure about that, or ooh, that's really wow.
I definitely had some wow moments. I'm Karen Salas.
Hey, Karen.
Hi. And I am again a massage therapist. I spent the last 10 years in clinical research as a research coordinator. Oh. And I've returned to my practice just recently of massage therapy and energy work. And I can't tell you how gratified I was to hear the human response to just, to people being human. And knew I was told my small group, I knew I was in the right place. And I also learned that I knew I could do like case studies, but I just felt like I was surrounded by people who wanted to do the similar things or already doing things like that. And just having the experience as a witness and facilitator to this process on the table, validated as a source of knowledge that needs to, and these stories that need to be told. That was really powerful for me as a participant today. So thank you.
I'm so glad. We're so glad you came, Karen. Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Fiona Mora, and I've been meaning to come to these sessions many times. This is my first one. I'm so excited. I'm so pleased. I'm a certified yoga therapist, neurosomatic facilitator, and we are actually conducting research right now with SE principles and into yoga therapy and peer support. And so we are working with an international group right now on crime victims, survivors of crime, and then a smaller group that roots out with domestic violence. And so we are using very primitive, I'm not a researcher by trade. And so we're using really just very simplistic surveys, information forms, stuff like that We are seeing patterns I did share with the group, and would really love to have help us that don't have the foundational education of research, and how we could expand our experiences in being able to bring the information that we're getting, put it down on paper and share it with others.
Yep. That's what this is all about. And I'm going to move into next steps only because I want to respect people's time, but just a couple things from the work group, and I'm just sharing what the work group wants to do. The first thing we're going to do is we have a monthly meeting. We're going to meet together in December and kind of, what did we learn? What did we hear? What did we, how do we adjust? What do we respond to? Because you tell us, and we want to make sure that we're responsive to you. So that's one of the first things we're going to do. Starting in 2022, we do have already on the calendar, now the content's not there yet, but there are 4 research salons already on the calendar, 1 a quarter for next year. And what those topics will be, I think, is what we are hearing. How to do some fundamental measurement. How do you do pre-post? What is a case study? How do you do a case study? How do you get funding? What's an IRB? So we want to do more hands-on pragmatic sorts of seminars, as well as highlight what people are doing. There's a lot of neat work out there that we want to have people have an opportunity to showcase, talk about, and we can all learn from what they're doing and how they're doing it. So that's one of the things that is already on the books, and we will be populating those webinars. And that's not to say we can't do more. The other thing we'd love to do is journal groups or topic groups. Come up with, put together people that are doing like things or have similar interests, and you could be all over the world, but we'll get you started, and then you just have your own meetings and Zoom groups and, basically a study group, however you want to talk it. So you can meet people that are doing what you're doing and have that sort of community around you so you can work together collaboratively. Because I know we're all isolated in many ways. If we're not in an academic institution, it's pretty isolating. So it's nice to have people that that are, at least, even if they're not in the same content area, at least similar brain, the ability to kind of work through these things together. The other thing that you'll be seeing is when we're going to send out the recording of this, and then sometime in early next year, we'll be sending out we're thinking of it as a directory form. It looks like a survey, but it's a directory form. And what we're going to try to do next year is create a directory that's interactive that we can put on the webpage of SEI and allow people to find somebody who's interested in PTSD in young children and wants to do research in that arena. I'm looking for someone who does that, or I'm a grad student, I'd like to learn more about doing case studies. So people can find each other. And so this form will be designed to have you tell us who you are, what you're interested in, what you need, what you want, and create a mechanism that allows people to find each other. Because right now it's hard. How do you find each other? It's kind of the big cyberspace black hole. So that's one of the other goals that we have. So be on the lookout for that. What else am I?
Can I chime in on one?
Yes, please.
We're going to also be looking at doing some training of people who can be kind of more direct mentors, who might be willing to embody the model and have some support capacity to be able to help somebody walk through the projects. And another big vision that I'm going to be working on is to have like a yearly cohort of maybe 5 to 6 people who have, a few weekends of training and some direct support, and go from research idea to research finished and ready for publication within the course of the year. And so we have some leaders in that. And but if you feel drawn to learning more about research or have enough capacity that you feel like you could support somebody with a little bit of training, happy to have you come in at that level as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's what the work group talked about earlier, as we were talking about the concepts around SC informed mentoring, is the concepts are great, but we need the containers. We need the structures in which people can find each other, work together, and not just talk ideas. So next year, the focus is going to be on creating tools, structures, systems that allow people to learn what they want to learn, get information and what they need, support that they need, and generally just build this community. And I do want to mention that there is a listserv. Many of you are probably on it. Michael, I don't have that right handy, but perhaps you can.
I'll get
throw
it and I'll
that
put it in the
into
chat.
Yeah, thank you. But again, another great opportunity for people to find each other, talk to each other, because it really is about community and collaboration. And so that is a key focus for this work group, along with just the formal mentoring process. I think I captured everything. Yes. Frank, any final thoughts from you?
No, thanks for showing up. Actually, that was a pleasure, I would say. Yeah. It's so nice to have that feeling because we're sitting in our little work group. It's so nice actually to get it out there and connect, because this is really what it's all about. So yeah, thanks for showing up.
Yes, absolutely. Ben, any thoughts? As a student, I mean,
Yeah,
this
I
is,
just feel so lucky that you all even let me come along for the ride on this. It's amazing. Getting to hear what everybody's doing and focusing on, and it's so inspiring. So thank you so much.
we are absolutely thrilled you're here, and encourage students in general, because we learn more from you than you have any idea. So please keep coming and keep coming back. Mary, any thoughts that you'd like to share before we close out? Oops,
I just want to say, I am so impressed with like the group and the people in SC and my group, the research that they're looking to do. It's so exciting. I mean, I'm just delighted that today happened. I feel it, SC kind of, you graduated and then you're sort of around, but it feels like we're coming back and we're bringing all the richness. We learned the theory, we're out there in the world applying it, and now we're coming back together to test it so that we have really, really solid research to support what we know is just exquisite theory, really solid base. So thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we are so grateful for all of you being here, and just want to close this out and say thank you for being here. Please, let's stay in touch. We're going to try to maintain momentum into 2022 and just build on this. So your participation today, there's a lot of people registered that weren't able to be here, which is, hopefully we can have more of these. Sorry, my Amber Alert's going on here. Holy cow. And next time we do this, do a workshop environment, we'd love to have, you all back and have more people back so we can continue the conversation. So thank you again for being here, for participating with us, and have a great rest of your day and week. And much gratitude to all of you, and certainly to Frank, Mary, and Ben, and our facilitators for volunteering, for being here, and Rebecca and Dion for making this all actually happen. So many thanks to all of you, and take good care.
And just as you're leaving, look at the faces, feel the connection, notice your heart, notice the other hearts here, and let your resonance be impacted by their resonance. And know that even when we're out there doing our solo work, there's lots of other people cheering you on, wishing you well, walking with you silently.
Exactly. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.